Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast where we have real, unfiltered conversations with women about what it takes to thrive in today's modern, fast paced world. I'm your host, Tiffany Simms, and today we are talking to Lena from Have More Love. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to just shout out the Modern Women's Society. The Modern Women's Society is a high performance coaching container for women who can't afford to burn out or stall in their growth because too many people depend on their leadership. Inside the society, we break free from outdated hustle culture and learn how to scale our impact without the exhaustion, guilt, shame, and sacrifice that success of the past demanded of us. If that speaks to you, go ahead and click that link below to learn more. We'd love to see you on the inside. Now, let's get into today's chat with Lena. Lena, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am. I truly enjoy the time that we've spent together. Like, you are just such light and love and like a gift to this world. And so I'm really excited to share you and your voice with other people. Can you start us off by sharing like who you are, what makes you you, kind of like what makes your soul sparkle?
I love that question. I love that word, sparkle. Okay, wait, now I have to show you. I have my sparkle. Yeah, like I
Are those
opened,
crowns, are those gold glittered
they
crowns?
they are gold glittered crowns and stars. And I love that you asked about sparkle because one of the things that truly makes me sparkle is how many phenomenal women I have in my life. And these all came out of an envelope. A friend sent me an envelope, card for my birthday one year. And I was like, oh, this card, what's in here? Like it was like kind of bulky. And I opened this card and it just exploded. Like all these,
I love that so much.
yeah. And so I keep them in a little, the other thing that makes me sparkle, if you can see this, it's a tiny little, and it looks like coins.
They're
If
like
you're getting it,
shells.
they're shells, but they look like coins. They look like pennies and dimes. And it's a beautiful little shell dish that I got in Bali. Because the other thing that makes me sparkle is being able to go everywhere in the world that calls to me and meet people who are there and find out what is happening in that part of the world and all of that. So yes, so here's
That
a
is
perfect
so
example.
fun. That is so fun.
Yes.
If you are listening to us on a podcast, like, and we're just in your ears, you can head over to YouTube at Two Humans Talking and watch the episode and be right here in the room with us. And you can see the bowl that Lena shared with us and the sparkles, and you can see my fabulous lightning bolt earrings.
Yes, we have
They're
to talk
bringing
about
some
your fabulous
pizzazz.
lightning bolt earrings.
Yes, they brought me a lot of joy today. I was like, I feel pizzazzy. Like, let's go. Let's go shake some things up. So
Yep.
much fun.
Yep. So those are two things that make me sparkle.
That is so beautiful. Thank you. Where would we find you on a Saturday?
Oh gosh. Most Saturdays, if I'm not out somewhere, if I've got guests in town and we're going to do something, or if I'm not specifically going on a road trip, most Saturdays probably on my porch reading. Yeah, I love my porch. I love my porch.
That's so
So
fun. You're on the West Coast, right?
I'm on the West Coast. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought I remembered that from the last time we chatted. So
Uh-huh.
fun. Can you tell me a little bit about how Have More Love started?
It started, okay, so Have More Love started years before it began when I finally had the realization that I wanted to have better relationships in my life. And I didn't just mean dating. I wanted to experience more love in my life. And I didn't mean just romantic love. So I started on this journey of going to workshops and reading books and taking classes and really learning all the things that I had not allowed myself to learn before that. There's a lot of people who are, I call them weekend warriors. There's some people who are in a weekend workshop every single weekend, or they've got all the books on their shelves, or they know all of the people by name whose philosophies they follow. And I was never one of those people. I was one of those people who said, oh, well, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. Why would I read a book about that? It should just come naturally. And
Shut all over yourself.
I was shitting all over myself. But, it's so interesting when you just said that. What popped into my head is we think that that's an absolute. Like, we think that, once we have a thought about something, we think that that's the only thing that's true. And it's so hard to evolve and to change those thoughts. And so it started back then with me. And again, it was not anything that I ever thought I was going to do, but it was just a shift in how I wanted to be.
Yeah, that is
And
experiences, right? Like how we want to
yeah,
feel and be and like be seen by the people around us and the people we interact with.
and
I totally get that.
engage with life. And so that was really the beginning of that. And then a few years of doing that kind of exploration for myself in a lot of different ways. I started getting feedback from people that, hey, you're really kind of good at this thing. You're very intuitive about a lot of things. And I it's funny, within the space of 2 weeks, I had a conversation with three different people, and they were just kind of acquaintances of mine. So I didn't know them super well, but each of them in one way or another had asked me a question about something that they were trying to figure out. And I and again, the thought is once you think something's a certain way, you don't think that it's another way. So it was kind of like that. And so all I didn't tell anybody what to do. I didn't tell anybody what I would do. I just said in a different way to each of the three of them, well, have you ever thought about it this way? And like I said, it happened within the span of 2 weeks. And God does that. So we see it very clearly. So every single one of them said to me, wow, thank you. I never thought about it that way. And so I tucked that away into the back of my thoughts. And then over time, coupled with some friends of mine who we had gone through some classes together and we're talking about some things that we were all learning about, and a couple of my friends said, yeah, you're really kind of intuitive about this. I have a friend who's so funny. She always says to me, you can find the nugget. You like, there could be a whole conversation, but you zero in on the one point and you're like,
Like that's the thing. I'm
that's the
attracted to.
thing.
I just want to suck it up and ask you lots of questions. Do you find
Yes.
because you're just like genuinely curious?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, okay, but
And I
let's be
used to
fair.
struggle with this. I used to struggle with this, like, I always felt like I had questions.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time when I was like starting to like unknowingly hone in on my craft around this, like I would get met with resistance around like, why do you ask that? Or like there was like, what
From other
are you
people or
like, are
from
you
yourself?
judging me with that question? Like I
Yeah.
was just genuinely curious, like, how did we get here? Or why did you think that? Or like what prompted, what was the catalyst for this event? And not from a place of judgment, but from a pure curiosity before I knew what I know now.
Mhm.
I think I always knew that like cause and effect
Yeah.
was a thing. And I just wanted to understand how people thought and how they interacted and how we got places. And if we were to change an input, maybe this is the sciencey part of me, where it's like if we tried this a little differently, like would we get the same response? Would we land in the same place?
Yeah.
And so I'm with you on that. Like I'm naturally curious about how we function and like interact with others. And so I always have questions.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I could totally see people thinking that it's judgmental, and it's not intended to be judgmental, because I know that for me, when sometimes it was just purely out of curiosity, and sometimes it was because I kind of had a sense, oh, there's something in this for you. So I would go there, and then that person felt like, well, why are you asking me that?
And
Or
do you know what I really think it is? Because I do it sometimes when other people do it to me. When I get tiffed, sometimes my insecurities will like, because we're judging ourselves, we're trying to figure something out, something isn't quite right. And so we
Mhm.
feel icky already
Yeah,
in it. And someone just
yeah,
asked the question that was like lingering, but we weren't brave enough to answer or didn't really know how to like unpack it. And then they
right,
said the thing, and we're
right.
like, it's like staring yourself in the mirror and you're like, I didn't want to go here today.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's that, but you're also reminding me of something else too. It's the question. It's people have asked, like, why would someone go to a coach? Why, and why would some people go to therapy, whatever? And I say, it's a combination of things. Some people use coaches as accountability buddies. And because you know that you have to show up at that next session, and you either did the thing that you agreed to do, or you didn't do it, right?
or you didn't do
So,
it.
or you didn't do it, right? So there's only two options. You did it or you didn't do it. But it's
Or no, there's a third option. You have lessons in the attempts of trying to do it.
Well, but if you attempted to do something, then you did it. You were
Fair enough.
doing
Fair
the
enough.
thing,
Fair enough. I'll take that. Yeah.
right? So, and because no, we don't count, oh, if it didn't work, I don't trying, like, what does trying mean? You're doing it. It's either going to work or not work. But that's a whole other episode.
I love
But
that.
but it's a whole other conversation. But so what you just made me think of though is I've learned, because again, going back to when I started through this process for myself, coaches ask the questions we don't ask ourselves. And coaches also ask questions that we do ask ourselves, but coaches make us answer those questions. We don't make ourselves answer those questions.
That is, I don't know that I've ever really thought about that. It is so incredibly true.
So that when you're asking questions of people just from purely from curiosity, but from a more elevated curiosity, not just like, oh yeah, why'd you do that? And then you're going to forget the answer. It's you were asking because, you just were curious about that human's nature, right? So I think that's part of why the response can be what it is, because people are feeling confronted, even though you're not meaning to confront them.
And I also like, I don't know that I've ever really thought about this before you and I are chatting about it. But like, I think it's also one of the reasons I'm innately this person. It's why
Mhm.
being a high performance coach fits me so well, because I am naturally and innately, those are the skills. Anyone can learn how to be a coach. I believe that there's a skill set
Mhm.
attached to it and anyone can learn. But I think this is the real reason why I truly, truly have to pause with my friendships and say, what do you need from this conversation before I ever respond? Because Tiffany, as a human, is always going to ask the questions, and it can be exhausting. And now that I've like practiced those skills through intentional coaching, like it is so much more dialed in that sometimes my friends are like, I just want, like, I don't want you to ask me questions. I don't want, not that I don't want you to be you, but like, can you just sit with me for a minute while I get it
Right,
all out? I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I just need to out loud process it, and I just need you to listen. Perfect. But I
right.
have a really hard time learning that, because someone once said like, do you like, I don't want to be coached, and I remember thinking like, I'm not coaching, I'm just being myself. Like, I'm genuinely interested and curious about the question I asked you. I wasn't trying to coach you or cross a line. So it's caused me to be a little, it's resulted in me being a little bit more intentional and aware of what the person on the other side of the conversation is looking for.
Oh yeah, I've been going through that. I've said that I realized I've been like this since before I ever heard of coaching, right? I am like this. I've always been, it could be better. it could be better. I'm not trying to fix anything, but I've always felt like, well, if this isn't exactly what you want, it could be better. So let's dive
What
in.
would work? Like, what is it that you want? Is there a way we could get there? If you had
Yeah.
to come up with, if we had to have an answer and it could be crazy, like, what would it be? And like, I do this to myself all day. It's like, I come up with some of the craziest solutions. And then all of a sudden I'm like, huh, that worked. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So first, thank you. I'm glad to know it's not just me. I'm not
me
the only one
too.
whose
This is a
friends are
mutual thank
saying,
you.
stop it, just sit with me, just witness, just be. Can you just be? So that's,
But
so
this
it's
is
kind,
me being.
yeah, but it's not anymore because I have taken that in. I mean, a few years ago, there was a really rough patch right after I started coaching, and I was in on like high alert with everybody in every conversation. And so it's not that anymore. So I'm really grateful for
Yeah.
that I don't get that feedback a lot. No, I'm not perfect, but not a lot anymore. But yeah, but that's kind of, but it also came with my my own understanding of what enabled me to really make changes for myself, which was the day the light bulb went on for me about the difference between who am I and how do I act. Because when I was stuck in decades of who am I don't know about you, I don't know about anybody else who's listening to this, but when something's not going right for me in whatever area of my life, and I'm stuck in who am I, my questions aren't useful questions. My question was always, what's wrong with me? And, for not having this thing, for not being able to accomplish this thing, for not being able to achieve this thing, whatever. And, but it's really hard to love yourself when you're constantly asking yourself, but
When
what's
you
wrong with
think
me?
you are.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's really hard to even think about for yourself. It's, it's kind of like people who are constantly dieting, but are constantly telling themselves, well, this won't matter. I can't stay on a diet. I can't lose weight. I'm the person who can't lose weight. So it's all self-defeating. People who would like to be in business, start a business, maybe they have a great idea. Well, I've never done that before. I don't know anybody who's done that. I can't do that. When we do the can'ts as well as the shoulding, it's just really self-defeating. And so it really was like the crux of my ability to evolve was, and I don't even know how it came to me, but it was like, there's something here about how I'm acting. And I acted like literally was an actor for many, many years. So it's kind of funny that it took that long for that to come to me. But I was like, it was in the interactions. It was in people talk a lot about actions. What actions are we taking? What are we doing? But as an actor, and I bring that to my coaching and now to my life, other parts of my life, it's about how am I doing the thing that I'm doing? And that makes such a huge difference. And I started to be able to hear myself more and not shut down, because that's the other thing when we can't love ourselves and we're always looking for what our fault is, that we can't hear solutions. We just
Oh my
can't,
God. Yes, so true.
because we're just so full of all of the other
So much
stuff.
resistance. We just have too much resistance that it can't get through because like we're in that like defeatist hating of ourselves, self-loathing,
Blame.
like where it's like everything, even if it could, we just cannot see the possibility because we are so stuck with the blindfold over our eyes that like
Yeah.
we just need like someone to rip the blindfold off for us so that we can like function for a second.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was in that, I mean, that I feel like, and that was divine download for me to finally get that understanding and be able to move forward. And so it was kind of like, well, maybe there is nothing wrong with me and I'm just not dating right now and meeting the right people, whatever, but maybe it's something that I'm doing. And I finally started to just be able to chip away at a lot of behaviors that I feel were not really a part of me and my being, but behaviors that I had seen around me, grown up with, or, been out in the world with. And I layered them on top of me. So it wasn't me so much, my qualities that needed to change. It was what I had allowed to layer on top of myself,
It
which
was
wasn't
time
even
for an
really
outfit
me.
change.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, it was time for me to go into a phone
Is
booth
someone
and
else
spin
gonna
around and
like set of jackets that I have like just put on top of each other? I'm gonna
Mhm.
shed these off. I'll leave them on this bench. Someone else is gonna need them for the season they're in, but I'm not that person anymore. Time for a new outfit. Time for a new
Yeah.
jacket.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And that it just didn't, and there's still a lot of stuff. There's still a lot of stuff that I'd like to change and grow and evolve around and kind of, things that I still, might say or do, and then I walk away and I go, oh no, no. But it's really interesting now when things like that happen for myself, it's just almost immediate that I see it. And I was like, oh no. And I think that that's part of growth too, because, you know, seeing it, even if you're seeing it after it's happened, that's allowing you to work with that. And the more you see it and the more you're aware of it and the more you want to change that, that seeing it will get it closer and closer and closer and closer until it comes to the point where you see it as you're about to say it, or you see it as you're about to do it, and then you can choose not to. And
Yeah.
so that's really, it's all a process. It's a practice. It's like, yoga is a practice, or there's so many other things that are a practice. It's because we continue to do them. It's not like I'm going to do one downward facing dog and then that's it for the rest of my life, right? It's a practice. And so is self-evolution a practice.
That just felt so like a big warm hug inside my soul.
Oh,
Because it's so like I wholeheartedly agree. And I don't know about you, but I went through a season of like taking extreme ownership of myself. Like I got to a point where I was like, if I'm not getting what I want, the inputs are not met, like the outputs and the inputs, like they're not aligned. Like I must not be doing the things to get what I want, and I don't really like this. And so it was like, well, if I must be allowing this in some way. And so I took extreme ownership in the world at the time of the people I was surrounded with, my surrounded by, there was a lot of like, not everything can be your fault. And I'm like, yeah, but it can be. And it's not from a place of like, I hate myself and I'm blaming myself, but it's from that place of like empowerment of I have control over this. So what's not working for me, let me go change that. Whereas the people around me at that time, if you said like, well, if what's happening to you is your fault. It felt like they were getting blamed and and you were telling them that they were these horrible people. And it's not
right,
that. It is taking ownership and responsibility and getting aware and trying new things and recognizing that old patterns and habits and way of being are no longer serving the person you want to be anymore. That's not telling yourself you suck and sitting in a pile of like you're the worst poop. Like it's you being empowered and enlightened enough to say like I want to shed this stuff because it's not serving the person I want to be and I'm tired of being stuck. And then
right.
and it might sound the same, but there's a difference. Like there's a line of demarcation on that coin.
Yeah, yeah. So here's what I'm thinking as you're saying that, because I've done a lot of thinking about this exact topic too, which is it's not our fault that something has happened, especially if it's something that came from outside of ourselves. So, it's not, we can't be blamed, and fault is a word that carries blame with it, right? But we can take the power that we have and decide that we have the responsibility, your word, for ourselves
Yeah.
to try and ensure it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
That's the difference. For me, fault is kind of like in the past. This thing happened. Responsibility is for our future.
Yes. Yes. And I'm gonna use, maybe it's a trigger warning, but I'm gonna use a very specific example in my life. It wasn't my fault. I did not put someone else's hands on me. He put his hands on me.
Mhm.
When I look back, were there things that I was in unconsciously ignoring that led to that moment because I was trying to passivate it and I was just trying to like make peace and trying to like move through a hard season in a relationship? Yeah, like I allowed things unconsciously to be happening in our household. Does that mean I'm at fault? No, because I'm not responsible for what someone else does with their hands.
Right.
However, from that moment, what happened after 100% had to be my responsibility, or or I would have allowed that behavior. And so like for me, that was like one of those moments where sometimes you got to get awoken to a thing, and there has to be like this really big disrupt for you to be like, oh my gosh, like this is not okay. And moving forward, like I'm responsible for what's happening after this. Like they showed me who they are. That was not my fault, but the actions we take next are. And so making
Yeah.
sure that I'm responsible for that never happening again. Because like,
Yeah.
and I feel like there was a more elegant way of saying that I did not do a very good job of, but hopefully like the gist of what I'm saying is coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And, on this kind of topic specifically, unfortunately, there are people who are still in situations like that. And it's still not their fault, even if it's repeated. There might, you were in a situation where you were able to take responsibility and take action out of that responsibility. And so I think it could also be helpful for people who are not in a situation where they can take action out of their responsibility to know that it is
Yes.
not their fault.
Yes.
That is the power for them.
Yes. And
And it
also
doesn't say anything about them.
yes, and also recognizing that whatever the situation is, sometimes there's layers of things that you take responsibility for. And because you're trying to keep peace, you're trying to work through something, you're trying to
Mhm.
resolve something. So sometimes there's just you're taking it one step at a time until you reach the moment of like exit. Do you know what I mean? And all of that is just as empowering. It doesn't make us stupid or idiots or like unlovable pieces of garbage because like we were blind to something while we were trying something else. Like all of those steps that we took moving forward are a part of the story of like how we do take responsibility for our lives and our
Yeah.
destinations and where we want to go.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
helping pull that together.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So, so good. How do we connect with you outside of the show?
Well, I do have a website, and I think you're going to put that in the show notes, or else
Yes, ma'am.
I'd be spelling a lot right now. But on social media, I want to invite people to come and find me on Instagram at Have More Love. And if you'd like to send me a message, you can do that privately through Instagram. And I would love to know from you what resonated for you and what stood out to you. Did something that Tiffany and I um, said today, did anything really resonate for you out of that? And separate from that, if you have a question, if there's something specific that you're curious about, or you feel like you need to like to see a change in your life about that, please drop me a note about that and we can chat, because I really would like to be able to tailor a tool for you very specifically that will help you kind of start to move through that.
You've heard her this whole episode. Just, she's very peaceful. She wants to see you. She wants you to win. She doesn't want to judge you or tell you you're wrong or any of those things. But as you can see, like Lena has a very special gift of being able to hold space through the messy to help other people get to the other side. And so I really, really encourage you to go be a human with this human. Message her, say hello, let her know you heard her on the show and that you just want to chat. Like, go be human. Lena, this has been so, so good. I've loved this chat. As we're wrapping it up for today, is there anything left on your heart that you didn't get to share that you wanted to share with us?
Yes. Yes, thank you. And I really love this chat too. So thank you for that. And what just is coming to my mind that I want to share is that all of us humans are in this together. And I truly believe that what blesses one blesses all.
I'm letting that land for a second because that is just, yes. Oh my God, so, so good. Lena, thank you so much for being here. With that, that's Two Humans Talking, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and actionable as I did. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living a life where your health, your relationships, and your career work together without the burnout, then it's time that you join the Modern Women's Society. Inside, I'll walk you through my life GPS system, a proven blueprint to help you have it all while thriving. You'll gain tools, coaching, and the kind of clarity that brings big dreams to life without the stress, overwhelm, guilt, and shame that the modern woman is used to. We're going to create a life where you feel energized and excited to wake up every day and fulfilled when you put your head on the pillow. Click the link below to learn more and join countless other women who are redefining success on their terms. Because the life you've dreamed about is closer than you think. I'll see you on the inside.